Brilliant. All right. Well, I'm very pleased to introduce Tim, who's also going to do an excellent job of introducing himself. He tells me he's got 12 slides on himself, but I don't think that's probably quite true. But I think I think there's a case to say that Tim's going to do a lovely job of introducing himself, far better than I would.
Yeah, okay, it's not 12 slides, it's 11. Okay, I over-egged it a little bit, Ben, but yeah, I will introduce myself. My name's Tim. I run an agency called The Brand Weaver. It's a creative strategy, branding and marketing consultancy, predominantly focusing in the independent brewery sector, but the knowledge that I'm sharing today is applicable across the board, really, with a bit of creative thinking and application. So that's a little bit about me and where I come from.
Great. Well, that was quick.
Yeah. I've got some more slides to back it up in a bit. Like, I just didn't want to dive into the presentation straight away. I've got my vital stats. I've got my height, my weight. I like long walks on the beach, that kind of stuff. It's
brilliant.
Should I get stuck in?
Yes, let's go for it then, Tim. Thank you.
All right, my bad. So yeah, this morning I'm going to be chatting about thinking beyond the drinker. So Ben, you very kindly came onto my podcast, Branding for Breweries, and of course you shared your expertise in terms of scrappy wins for breweries and indie breweries and what they could do. And then when we were talking, I was thinking really hard about, well, how do I just avoid going into the standard, this is what creates a great brand, this is how you establish your messaging and all that kind of stuff, and then visually how to represent it and how to activate it. I was like, actually, one thing that I would love to talk about is thinking beyond the drinker as it is here, because a lot of times when I work with breweries and clients, there's this kind of overarching thing that keeps on coming back, and I've worked in the drinks industry for several years now, and the theme that I keep on hearing and I keep on seeing is we focus too much on drinkers, right? That everyone else, like the gatekeepers before that, they don't get as much consideration, but actually they hold a lot of the power before your drinker and consumer gets to try the product at the end of the day. And so we need to really think about who those gatekeepers are, who are the people with the clipboards, they've got their own tick boxes to go through to appease them before getting in front of your consumer.
Actually, I think that's instantly that's obviously a really good way of framing it, because you're addressing more of the challenge, aren't you? If you think of it in the funnel way as well, it's just a bigger part of the challenge, because often you can be frustrated, can't you? Like, why is no one buying our beer? But actually, if you go further up, there may be the reasons for it. And obviously that applies outside of drink as well, doesn't it? So it's kind of like, these same principles that you're going to go into will be, applicable to basically all kind of brands, because it'd be the same thing. It's like, no one's buying our chocolate, but actually, it's going to be further up. So yes, okay, this is great.
Exactly. It is. Like, if you go, well, no one's buying our chocolate, it's like, well, they probably haven't got the opportunity to buy your chocolate at this point. It's not a case of going, I don't like the packaging or I don't like the taste. It's just like, they've not seen it. They don't know about it. They're not going to follow your random social media content if they've never heard of you before. You got to think, as you say, go back up the funnel. And with a bit more clarity, then you can design your messaging and understand what strengths to play to appeal to them. So what you're going to do about it. But I suppose before we establish what we're going to do about it, I should justify why people should give me 20 minutes of their hard-earned time to listen to my bearded face wax lyrical. I've been in the creative industry for like 20 odd years now. Stop it. I know I don't look it, please. Please. But I've worked, with some incredible brands, as you can see, like Disney, DC Comics, Masterbuilt, Lucasade, the BBC. Did a brief stint with Strictly Come Dancing, with Bluey, best cartoon.
Oh wow, okay, amazing, yeah.
Before then niching into the indie beer world. The reason I then niched into the indie beer world is because it was like, I want to focus on solving problems for a particular group that I care very passionately about. Not just the product, but the people in there. I was talking on a podcast just yesterday. I used to play in a lot of bands. I used to gig. I used to tour. And I can see so many similarities between breweries. Like, a band creates an album full of wonderful songs. A brewery creates an offering of 7, 8 great beers, which are like their greatest hits. They got to promote it. They got to tour it. There's so much creativity in there. And I just felt that affinity and drawn to them to help them achieve.
Nice. Yeah. That's cool.
And in doing that, I've like to say I've been relatively successful helping breweries. Like one of my clients smashed 100K in 2 days after launching one of the strategies we worked on. I've worked with one of the UK's biggest indie breweries and launching a new product. I've helped another brewery bring in 2 additional trades each week. I've increased online sales by 183%. I've increased brewery memberships by 43%. I've helped a brewery client smash their 5-year plan in 1 year. Like there's a lot that, you know, branding strategy, knowing your market, knowing your audience can help you with if you're willing to put in the effort on the other end as well.
And I think the other interesting thing as well, just, you know, zooming out a tiny bit as well, is that beer is incredibly competitive, like so many other categories. So it's not like it's like a easy way, you know, it's hard work, isn't it? I mean, I've worked with beer. It's tough. And you're like, hey, you've got this great beer. And you're like, oh my, everyone else has got great beers. You know, so it's, you know, the same in so many sort of, you know, categories, if you like. It's really tough. Everyone's fighting over, you know, a diminishing amount of disposable income. So it's not an easy one, is it, basically?
There's just under 800 breweries right now in the UK alone. And of course, they then have multiple different beer types most of the time underneath them. So they're not just competing as a brewery, they're competing as a particular beer style. And they've got a particular market, a particular consumer. So, but across the board, it's challenging. You can apply this logic that everyone needs to grab the eyeballs, earballs, mouthballs sounded wrong, mouth of your consumer to try and taste your product, right? Let's move on quickly.
Yeah.
Strap in, people. We're going for a ride, okay? And the first thing that I want to talk about this morning is the trap, right? The pitfall of what I call the usual goal, right? So I've experienced this with clients that I've worked with, and I've gone, all right, cool. So you know, what's the goal? And they'll just go, oh, we want to grow, or we want to increase sales, or we just want to get our name out there. And I'm like, oh, that's I can't measure that. I can't prove that I've helped you do that, right? That's the equivalent of going into a gym and saying, I just want to be fitter. Like if you can't define it, it's just noise at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I genuinely, I was chatting to a brewery, must have been a couple of months ago, and started the project. I was like, okay, cool. So let's sit down. What are our goals for this project? And the brewer looked at me like I'd asked him for his PIN number. Like, genuinely, I was just like shocked. Like actually positioning is like, no, so what are we going to do? What are we going to achieve here? Because, you know, a lot of the times when you're proposing like the kind of work that I do, they go, well, what's the ROI? What's the return on investment? It's like, well, what's your goal? And we can measure that, and then we can help establish what the ROI is.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben, have you come across people who have the ambiguous and vague goal?
Well, I mean, I was thinking I'm probably guilty of all 3 of these statements. But actually, I guess also that's your starting point, actually. And then what you're saying is dive deeper. And like everything, the more attention you get into it, the more specific you can get. And actually, you're more likely to then end up with some good tactics, right? So if you're like sales, okay, obviously we want to be bigger. But then we're like 10 grand by end of next month. You're like, wow, how are we actually going to do that? And it really starts to focus the mind. And then, you know, from both parties, you can really start getting into the specifics of how you might do that. And often the client, or, you know, you as the product owner, if you like, you're often sitting on good ideas, and it's just teasing that out. Or if you had a goal to, it's like, well, we were thinking of launching that thing. And then you're like, well, if you want to hit that, why wait 3 months? Now's the time to get it. And then also, if you get it out now, you're going to get another bite at it for Christmas, you know, like these sort of things. And it adds momentum and energy and more clarity into the process, doesn't it? And that's, you know, that's why it's worth going deeper for everyone in the process. You're going to get better results.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like the other way is like the real danger is if you have an unclear goal, you have an unclear audience that you're trying to get in front of in this perspective. It's, you know, if you don't know who you're talking to, who you're trying to appeal to, your branding, your marketing, your messaging, it's just a mush of ideas, colors, messaging. And that one person who you really wanted to talk to in the middle of this absolute cluster gets lost in it all because they don't realize which bit is talking to them or what applies to them. Like, you know, a beer brand, for example, they can have an amazing story, have a great design, but then if it's not geared towards the people who are going to drink it, it's just going to fall flat at the end of the day. There's just this massive disconnect. And it's the same for any product. You've got to know who's going to be consuming it and who's going to let you into market and like tailor your messaging to suit.
And I think, and just on that as well, which you'll probably get into, I think there's also the other danger of like, you might really want to talk to this one specific audience, but you also kind of need to check that it's big enough to sustain your business. Do you know what I mean? That's the other bit of it. You know, you can go, this is my crowd. It's like, that's great, but there's only 10 of them in the world. You know, internationally, so you got down to 2. Oh, Joe's got a question.
But would you, to Ben's point, would you recommend being really clear on your initial audience, and then you can always expand outwards, but you need to pick who you start with and be really clear on that? Because if you, like what Ben was saying, you might not have enough people in that audience to fuel your business long term, but you kind of need to know that you're doing it right initially before you can start applying it to other people.
100%. Like, you narrow down who is that person that I'm trying to engage with and talk to and like ultimately convince and bring them on board. Because in my industry, in the brewery industry, you would be shocked how many niche breweries there are that you would think would never work, but they still find their tribe and they find their bunch of consumers and drinkers, and actually a wider audience then pay interest to them going, oh, I've never heard of a brewery who does it like that, or it's a little bit different. So what it means is, it's that adage of like, if you're a brand for anyone, you're a brand for no one, right? Because your messaging is so broad that you're not picking up anyone. You're just trying to please everyone, and it's just that it doesn't work. So to have that kind of person in mind and what they want, what they need, I develop personas with my clients to go, right, these are the kind of this is the person I want to get in front of, and this is what's going to appeal to them. Gives you focus. And it doesn't mean you can't sell to any other consumer type. You know, if I walked into a Ferrari garage, I'd be like, oh, you're a bit scruffy, mate, and I don't know if you want it. But then I whipped out a massive bag of money. They certainly still take my money, but they're not advertising, they're not marketing towards me for me to buy the Ferrari at the end of the day. That's a different kind of persona and different demographic. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Fantastic. How about the oats, by the way?
Very nice, thank you.
Energized and ready to go for the rest of the day.
I feel energized.
I love it. Okay, so let me continue. A fair bit of the time, you know, what I mentioned is the drinker isn't the decision maker, but again, this can be the consumer, the eater, the muncher, the slurper, whatever they do with your product, they are not the decision maker. As I mentioned at the start, there is a whole host of people, gatekeepers, with shelves or spreadsheets or clipboards or mental checklists that they're going to run your brand and product through before they even grant you the opportunity to get in front of their audience. So this is what I want to start thinking about in this presentation. Ben, off the top of your head, who would you classify as a gatekeeper to someone like Bloody Ben's? Like, who have you had to get?
That's interesting. Well, actually, in that particular case, often it's like, oh, I don't want to, you know, we're not drinking or whatever. You're like, well, you can have a Virgin Mary. But you know what I mean? But that instantly starts off the thing, or like, it's too early for me. And you're like, it's kind of brunch. It's kind of a brunch drink. You know what I mean? Like, that can be sometimes the thing. So there's kind of like group pressure, or people are, will you like that? I think it's going to be a bit spicy. So it's people influencing the person who might want to think, oh, I'd actually quite like one of those. You know what I mean? So it's actually, there's a thing, isn't there? One reasons pizza restaurants are so popular is because it's the least offensive to the greatest number of people. So you can't agree. So if you said, I want to go for a seafood, more people are like, oh, I definitely don't want to do that, and you lose out. But if you go, all right, let's just go pizza, there's something for everyone. So there is that kind of like, it's the influence on the decision maker of the group, I think. And a bit, you know, it's a bit like, well, that's not for you, mate. You wouldn't like that. Well, it's 8%. I'm not sure about that. And you're thinking, I love 8% beers. So there is group pressure, isn't there? And it's making people, I guess part of the decision is making people feel okay about their thing. So in Bloody Marys, you want to kind of, you know, what I'm learning increasingly is it's celebrating the people who want to be a bit different and want that ritual of making it takes a bit time. It's not for everyone, you know, and there's quality in the difference, if you like. But if you left it to the group, they probably try and talk you out of it. So I think that's one part of it.
I think it's a great example, just like even that close circle around the consumer. We've not even got to the idea of like press and media or shop owners, but actually even within that, you're going, well, there's a campaign that we can introduce. It's like, one for the daredevil and one for the one who wants to give it a shot. You buy one, you get one half price. It is, like you say, empowering the consumer to make a bold choice, and it becomes a bit more of their identity. They're known as the risk taker. But yeah, completely right. The other ones, like when I look further up the funnel, when I started to make a list, I had press and media, bottle shop buyers, restaurant owners, distributors, online store managers, future staff, actually internal team members. That culture is really, really important, especially if you've got a physical premises where you're educating someone, encouraging them to, consumer to buy, then future staff are really, really important as well. And each of these people can matter more than the end drinker than when it comes to getting your product in their hands, because you have to convince them first. You don't convince them, then you don't even have an opportunity to win your consumer over at that point.
Yeah, that's a really great way of thinking about it, isn't it? Because if the bottle shop buyer, you just go into the bottle shop, don't you? And you buy what they've got, and you might be like, oh, I thought they might have a few more lagers or whatever, but they won't unless the bottle shop buyer has been influenced into that. He's got the selection, or sorry, not he, it's very sexy something. The person has the choice of what it's going to be. So that's a really interesting way of thinking about it, isn't it? Yeah, you won't ever get to drink it if you're not convincing the right people.
Exactly. You've got to win the gatekeepers over in that respect. I had a brewery that I was talking to, and they're going, we're going to increase trade sales, Tim. I was like, wicked, great idea. It's nice focus, bit of a goal there. I was like, what are you going to do? Well, at the moment, we're sending out some boxes to influencers. I went, well, why are you doing that? Because that's not going to increase your trade sales, is it? Like, it's great that you're doing something. It's great you've got an activation, you've got something happening, but it's not targeted at your goals. So know your gatekeepers. And then what I like to do is I apply the pick a lane principle. It's not trademarked, it can be stolen, but at least I've said it and it's recorded now and it sounds kind of cool. Good bit of alliteration as well. And the pick a lane principle, this comes back to your point a little bit, Joe, as well. There's actually one goal, one audience, total focus. Yeah. Now, this isn't me saying that has to be your business plan, brand plan, marketing plan forever. You can serve multiple audiences, but I don't believe you can do it very well at once, at least at the beginning, right? Focus will give you freedom. And what you do over time is you build it up. So I have the client I referenced earlier on who are bringing in 2 new trades each week. It's because they said, we're going to target pub owners, right? This is our messaging. This is how we know we're going to fit into the pubs. This is where we know the gaps are. This is how we know it complements the lineup. This is how we know it appeals to the drinkers. This is our messaging. And that led to 2 new trades each week because they focused on pubs. They've got that. They've got the systems. They've got the process. And now they're going, right, well, that's pubs. Now, what are we going to do next? We're going to do restaurants next because they've got that system in place for pubs. That's running quite nicely. And then they're adding someone else in. But you try and do 3, 4 of these audiences at once, messages get confusing, processes get messy, and things fall between the gaps. And you're suddenly saying the wrong thing to the wrong person, it all goes kaput. So focus gives freedom, in my humble opinion. And again, alliteration. It's great. So if we have a look at a couple of examples, I put together 3 examples here, but by the end of the 3 examples, I would hope you get the idea of what I'm like referring to here and how different audiences need different things and need to be told different things. So the first goal might be online growth. And when I talk about online growth, I'm not talking through your web store, because that's you own that. You've got the power and control in a slightly different way. And Ben, you came on my show and spoke about that ultimately. What I'm talking about is in other digital spaces that potentially you don't have as much control over. You want to increase awareness of your brands and of your products, online listings, but it's not your digital home. And so most of the time, before you get to someone who's clicking the button on the web store, there's going to be a web store owner, a buyer, someone like that who's giving you the okay and the thumbs up and running your product through it. Massive difference here between consumer and shop owner. Consumers buy emotionally or based on curiosity or the flavor, they're interested in it. The shop owner is practicality, right? They want, well, does it sell itself? is it a load of admin headaches? Will it make my store look good? Bottom line is always an obvious one as well, but you can break it down even more. Like a web store owner, when you go to them and you're telling them about your product, your press pack has got to have great imagery in it. And that sounds really obvious, but I still get shocked at how many people are trying to take the photos on their iPhone and fob it off to stores. It's like, no, invest in a bit of decent photography, and don't go, oh, we'll stick it on a white backdrop, because I assume they want it on a white backdrop. Ask the web store owner, like, can we do a color backdrop? Can we put extra props in around it? Does your web store support animated GIFs? Like, immediately stick a GIF of your product in there and a product listing, and people are going, oh, hang on, that's a bit different. You've caught their eye. You've hacked it, ultimately. A compelling story. Now, a compelling story isn't going to help you sell on the web listing as much, but what it's going to do is it's going to stick in the store owner's mind. It's going to make them go, oh, yeah, that's a bit different. Oh, I've not heard about that. I really like that. Because they're probably talking to 3 or 4 different brands each day. What can you tell them that's a little bit different, that's just going to give them that anchoring, that little brain worm to make them go, oh yeah, we'll probably follow up on that, or we'll give it a pop, see what it's like. Brand trust, equally important. Your consumers, end consumers will take a risk on your product. They'll try it once. If they don't like it, they don't buy it again. But a web store owner is going to be buying in volume. They're going to be buying in bulk. So they want that trust to go, okay, it works. The units move. Who else are you partnering with? What sales have you seen before? Where is the growth in this market, that you can give them the confidence to go, all right, this is worth the shot. It's worth it. And then at the end, I mean, if it boils down to, it's a product that sells itself. Everyone wants the easy life. Ben, you and I were talking about it before we started this course. Like, can't we just jump to the end without the hard graft? But you almost have to offer that to this kind of gatekeeper, where it's like, if you help us out, if you do put our products on the store, we're going to do our hard work as well. We're going to push it. We're going to promote it. We've actually got a bit of a campaign lined up that's going to be promoting our collaboration. And the more they go, oh, actually, if we work with these guys, they're going to promote our store. Amazing. It just adds that additional value to the web store owner and gives them a better, more of a better reason to stock you.
Yeah, I just think that's super important. And again, that's like a space that I'm much more into now, is this idea of like, you're really trying to understand why they should bother, because basically, even for an online store, it's still an effort to add a new product. Maybe they're probably going to buy some product from you rather than just drop shipping or whatever. And so it's kind of, you've got to do a better job of telling them why they should make the effort, what's going to happen. And yeah, stuff like, well, no, we're going to promote you, even though we've got our own online store, we're still going to promote your one. That's the sort of stuff. And then you think, well, okay, actually they've got quite a few followers. If they did that, that'd be pretty cool. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to like promise the earth. Sometimes just a little thing like that is just enough to make people feel like, really appreciative. But I think there is a job there, is that because we as product owners, we become obsessed with our own product and think everyone should have it. And I guess really to your point, you got to think why other people would want this, because ultimately your dreams are based around them saying yes to you and listing you, aren't they? That's the reality of it. And rather than sitting there going, oh, I can't believe they haven't listed us, it's like, well, why haven't they? Have we actually done a good enough job of convincing them and giving them some stats? And I think lots of us probably fall flat on that, or don't do enough in that regard. Don't push, what do they want enough, or even ask them, I think, is the other thing. It's like, what do you, why, how do we make this a success? And then there's more dialogue, more interaction, rather than, just being ghosted probably, because that's the other thing. And they're getting asked by so many people. So even I think by coming across as more proactive, you're probably already ahead of half of your competition.
100%. Like it's so true that there are so many brands out there and salespeople who focus on, well, this is our story. This is what makes us brilliant. Forged in the heart of a dying star, we created this bag of peanuts, which is available for consumption only by nuns who wear purple. It's not the thing, right? It's actually like, we love your store. We love what you've been doing with X, Y, and Z. But we have noticed there's a gap in that. Like, did you realize that, a lot of other stores are already doing this? We'd love to be the ones to partner with you to help you out. We've been watching you online. We love that activation. We think we could really complement that as well. Collaboration, I think, speaks volumes. For too long, a lot of brand owners are insular. Mine's the best thing. It's important. I've got to worry about me. I've got to worry about my bottom line, which of course you do. But I honestly feel you achieve that bottom line by working together with people. Don't work shut doors. Go out there, start talking to people. So next one, more trade sales. Joe, you were talking specifically about like pubs and getting, you know, into bars and stuff. I picked up restaurant buyers as an example, but a lot of this logic you can reverse engineer to pubs as well. So listen in, Holmes, we're going deep. So restaurant buyers, again, if we very quickly look at the difference between the person in the restaurant going, oh yes, I'd love to have a bottle of your finest Pilsner, thank you, versus the person who's buying it, the diner is focusing on flavor and vibe. The restaurant buyer, they want ease, alignment, margin, right? So if we break that down in a little bit more detail, first one, importantly, brand fit. Yeah. Does your product make sense to be in that restaurant, on that bar, in that pub, in that nightclub, wherever it is, in that posh, glamorous hotel? If your product is like aggressive illustrations of flaming skulls, not likely to land on a Michelin star table anytime soon, ultimately. Yeah. You get what I'm talking about. You've got to have that wonderful cohesion between your product and where it needs to sit. It needs to complement their range more than it needs to stand out from their range in this situation. A lot of the other times it's the other way around. You want to, especially if you're on shelves and trying to draw attention, you want to stand out. This time you need to feel like you're part of the team. Being menu friendly, mega important. And again, restaurants, from a beer industry side of things, restaurants will smash it with their wine, they'll smash it with their spirits and their cocktail offerings a lot of the time, but their beer normally is a bit of a letdown and people are a bit disappointed by the variety and choice. So you can actually go in and be like, okay, so a Thai restaurant, we actually brew this wonderful IPA with these hops that really accentuate these particular spices and flavors that are used in Thai food. Actually, here's a 4-pack, give it a go with your green curry next time, and let's sit down and enjoy it, and we'll see what we mean. Or I tell you what would be even better is let's create a dish that complements our drink, or we'll do a special release version of our product which complements your dish. Again, collaboration, menu friendly. It shows that you thought about it and how it really works into their environment.
Yeah, Joe, I'm just thinking you must have had quite a lot of experience with this with Everleaf, where, you know, you're bringing, because in the same way the beer offerings are often bad, the non-alc or even, you know, sort of mid-strength offering is pretty poor. So you must have been like, hey, there's a great opportunity here if you just do it better.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a 101 of how to make more money is to elevate people from buying a soft drink to buying a non-alcoholic cocktail. But it still surprises me to this day when you walk into a scale operator that you know must be being run by buyers that know their shit, and you still sit down and they've got either no non-alcoholic cocktails. I mean, like a cocktail as in like with a decent adult proposition rather than just a mocktail with juices. And you just think, why are you missing out on all this money?
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, I'm often, because, you know, more often than not driving, I've got stuff to do these days. So you're like, okay, fine, let's have a look. There'll be something good. And you're like, oh my God, there's literally, you know, this is surprisingly crap, you know, and yet they'll spend ages on some other part of it. And you think, well, yeah, missing an open goal. And I get, so, you know, and to Tim's point, then it's your job as the product owner to be like, you are missing the opportunity, illustrating the missed opportunity. And the more and the clearer you can get at doing that, the more, you know, the more goals you're going to score.
Exactly. And it goes into the next point, back of house support. Like, it's not only then like, this is how we could integrate with your menu, this is how we can boost it, how we can improve it. It's like, if you work with us, we're going to come in, we'll do that training session, we'll educate your team members. You know, Joe, to your point, we're going to actually work with you to put together a couple of cocktails, and look how much better it is if we bring that non-alc into it. You know, we're going to, like, for breweries, a lot of the time they'll go, not only will we come in and we'll work with the restaurant, but we'll take you on a brewery tour so you can see how it's all made, you get educated. And so you start to merge those teams. All of a sudden you feel like you're a bigger team. The people who work at the restaurant, when they're going, oh, you know, we'd recommend X, Y, and Z, your product's at top of mind because they've had a really good experience with you. They go, actually, we can tell you a little bit about this. We saw how it was created, how it was brewed, how it was made. And all of a sudden that sales pitch is so much easier because the person doing the heavy lifting at the restaurant end, it feels passionate about your brand, you know, maybe not as passionate as you, but get in there. And then from a practicality side of things, of course, a consistent supply. You've got to be able to commit and deliver time and time again that the product's always going to be there, because the hope is that your product's going to fly with each and every restaurant that you work with. So you go, no problem, here comes the next lot, no stress there. And again, those success stories that you've used in the past, or SLA, or some kind of guarantee to ensure you're not going to let them down, because the last thing they want to be doing is being caught with their pants down and going, oh, sorry, we don't have that available right now because we've been let down by our supplier. You see it all the time, not being let down, but you see this kind of collaboration, as I say, work a lot of the time over the brewery space, where they'll brew a specific beer for a restaurant or, you know, a food group, and it just works so well because it enhances the experience of the consumer. You're working together as a team to better the experience of the end consumer in that respect.
Also, you're helping each other, aren't you? Like, you're creating, just from a marketing point of view, you're creating great content together. Do you know what I mean? And there's all the things we just talking about, you know, you can do the brewery visit, you know, so it shows that you're caring, you're working as a community, you know, it ticks so many boxes. It's, you know, it's great.
Yeah. And then the third one is on-site sales, more coffee required. So if you actually have a premises, a tap room, a shop, a bar, whatever it might be, where you're selling these products, or even at an event, like at a trade show, this still applies. And on-site sales, it's not the person walking into that room, it's the internal team member that they're going to be talking to, seeking advice from, who's going to help to educate and make that sale and make that commitment. And again, drinkers are, they're stopping in for a minute, you know, they're flying by, oh, what's this? This is interesting. Or I knew I'd stop in and I'd check this place out. But your team, they're giving you a lot more time. You know, they're there for hours on hours a day. And so they want meaning. They want to be part of something. Yeah. They want a purpose, a reason for being, versus just a nice bottle of something or a packet of something. And so things that internal team members need to be looking at and need to be aware of are your brand purpose. Like, what's the reason? Why on earth are you doing this versus anything else? I classify a purpose as a North Star. It's this is what we're aiming for. This is the big old ball that we're rolling up the hill. This is our lighthouse. I can throw many more analogies in, but I feel it gets confusing after time. So then they go, oh, I like that aim. I like that goal. It's not a financial one. It's like, yeah, they want to be the biggest, the best, the fastest, the strongest, whatever it is. And I want to help them achieve that because it feels right to me. You then want to be able to communicate like a culture. It's our mission. It's our vision. This is what we're going to change about the industry, or this is what we're going to improve. These are our values, because people who want to commit to a business for a long time want to feel aligned and ingrained in that it reflects and echoes the sentiment of the business, because you feel passionately about it and you can communicate that with authenticity and passion and truth and honesty. And importantly, this needs to be from day one. I've experienced it before when I've joined agencies back in the day, where it's like, here is our one-page onboarding PDF. It tells you about the history of the company and the vision, and these are our financials. And then that just goes in a drawer somewhere and never to be seen again. Like, it's your onboarding, your training is the first part. It's got to be true. You got to feel it, but then you got to keep on bringing these internal team members back in. Like, is it every 2 weeks? Is it every month where you go, right, are our values being practiced? Are we showing our purpose? Are we taking steps towards our goals and our mission? Not like KPIs in terms of numbers and performance. You're going to get done that if you're in that particular role anyway. But it's like, have we actively shown that we are championing creativity, or, you know, bringing people together, or, you know, bringing the history of our product to life again? Are we actively showing this? Yes, brilliant, gold star, or something more valuable than a sticky gold star, unless you're really motivated by gold stars. I am, personally. But to be able to show that that's happening on a day-to-day basis is so important, because at the end of the day, it comes down to a reason to be proud. They want to be proud to work for your brand, for your business, and go, I love this brand. I love these products. I know the stories, because I feel aligned. I feel trusted. I feel like I am now a bastion of the product. And I'm not doing this as a job. I'm doing this as a passion alongside you. And it can be done. It's very hard. You know, being an entrepreneur, you set up a business, it's very hard to think that anyone can be as passionate about your product as you can, but you can certainly get them a long, long way in doing that. And then that passion comes through when they're talking to consumers and buyers, and they're just like, oh yeah, actually, let me tell you the story about X, Y, and Z, or do you like this? Then you probably love this. We know it works really well with this. It just flows beautifully. They wax lyrical about your product without even having to feel like they're selling it at the end of the day. So the big thing, I suppose, is you've got one brand, but your one brand tells many stories to one audience at a time. Yeah. I am not suggesting that to any of these gatekeepers or any of the other ones that we've talked about or touched on, that you have to lie. You have to make up something just to convince them and win them over. You know what is true to your brand, what's true to your products, you know what's true to the strengths of that, but you have to pick the right one to tell the right gatekeeper to get past. And then you go, we've done this successfully, now let's move on to the next audience. Yeah. Right then. This will be like the thing to take a screen grab of or pause the video when people are watching back. Okay, it's very quickly. It's a brand goals to audience matchmaker. If you're trying to grow online sales, you're looking for shop owners, restaurants, buyers, supermarket presence, category managers. These are the kind of audiences. There will be others as well, but it's a great starter for 10 to you to start to think about, right, who am I really talking to in order to achieve my goal? And then once you've done that, you can think about, what do I need to say to these people and what are they looking for? And again, that is then expanded in the why column. You know, they've got limited shelf space if it's supermarket presence. So they want brands with strong category fit, sales potential, logistics in place. Little bits here that you can then look at your own brand story and go, these are the things I can confidently tell this person about our brand, which will help them to realize that they need us and they want us. At the end of the day, clarity is everything. Know what your goal is, know who you need to talk to achieve that goal, and then put the plan in place in order to achieve it. So final reminder, as it were.
Remember
Own it, build around it, and then move on to the next. You can do everything, you just can't do it all at once. Yeah.
Do you find people are sort of pushing back at this day? They're like, whoa, this feels uncomfortable. You know, I want to talk to more people. And you're like, no, you know, don't move on yet. And people are probably too keen to move on. Do you find?
You do get pushback, but they're like, yeah, but why can't we talk to this person at the same time as well? And what I do in terms of creating strategy, I'm like, it's cool. Let's create strategies for these 3 different, you know, personas. But then when it comes to activation, I'm like, so how much time have you got to implement this? They're like, oh, it's, you know, maybe a couple of hours each week. It's like, well, you're not doing all 3 then, are you? Let's go back. Which one's the most important? And so you can have the planning in place. They know that they're probably going to have to tweak the other 2 strategies a little bit further down the line from what you've discovered from implementing the first one. But it all comes down to time at the end of the day. Like, it's not just clarity, but it's going, get one thing right, do it really bloody well. And then what did take you 4 hours to do on a weekly basis has suddenly taken you 2 hours, because you've got the processes in place, you've got the systems in place. You can rinse, wash, and repeat. And then you've got an extra 2 hours that you can bring something else in by. And so there's the education side of things but that's what I find with the people I work with anyway.
I have a question.
Go for it, Joe.
Say you have a really with these funny questions. Say you have a really clear idea of who your audience is, and you know, I'm going to hit them this way, this way, this way. This is what my messaging needs to look like. Is there a point at which you need to flex and you need to recognize that maybe you were wrong about that target market, and actually you need to, I guess my question is, how hard do you flog the horse before you switch to a different horse?
You flog the horse a lot harder than you think you need to. Okay. I have met many brand owners who get bored of their brand messaging and their strategies far quicker than their consumer does.
Okay.
And if anything, they change too quickly and it frustrates or confuses their target market. You know, a prime example I've used in the past is like a brewery goes, well, we're a red brewery who uses a donkey on our cans in our messaging, but we're bored of the donkey and the red now, and we're going to push green and owls. And then all of a sudden their drinkers have gone, well, where's the donkey gone? I don't know what's going on. Like you flog it, like whip it into little bits ultimately. But at the same time, you're completely right. You do want to be able to measure and look at what the responses that you're getting from it. There's no point putting messaging out there and for a week and then you go, well, that didn't work. Time to try something else. Yeah.
I think that's, I mean, the point you made earlier about being able to measure stuff, isn't it? It's kind of like, you've got to have some optimism, haven't you? But you can't just, it can't be blind, can it? You know, you've got to be making informed decisions along the way. You can be like, actually, look, I still believe in this, but the data's not backing it up, but I'm going to give it a little bit longer. But I totally agree. You don't want to get bored too quickly because everyone does it. I'm incredibly guilty of it. But you want to hold the line. And actually, you know, it's interesting, again, being sort of a consultant, it's easy to hold the line because you don't have all the internal pressures. So it's much easier to be like, don't just, you know, stick with it. It's working or whatever. But I think, you know, having the clear data is definitely more helpful. And if literally no one's biting, that's probably a fairly telling sign as well. But at the same time, you probably got to look at but we've only spoken to 10 people. You know, it's like 100, then it's like a no one. It's like we're probably something isn't quite right here. You know, like either is what we're saying wrong, or is actually, you know, it's just the wrong gang to be talking to. Full stop. You know. Yeah, and it's being honest with yourself, isn't it? It's having those slightly uncomfortable conversations. It might be it's more on your side than on their side, you know, and that's often the case, isn't it? It's like, actually, there's nothing wrong with them. You know, the problem's you.
The other thing is, like, a lot of business owners, they always look for the silver bullet. I was like, oh, do this, and in 2 weeks, your sales are going to skyrocket. It's just, unless you're putting a lot of money into it, you're not going to see those kind of returns immediately.
I think that's also the curse of like social media, isn't it? Because we're all scrolling through and then someone pops up, you know, and especially this whole sort of like 10x, 100x, 7 figures, and you're like, yeah, but that's just not going to happen for your little brand unless you are spending the money. So it's kind of like, can you put in like smart moves that can scale up? But I think we all feel that pressure, don't we? We're like, oh my God, we're not moving fast enough. This isn't happening. But actually, you know, most of those, all the great case studies, but they're normally like, and this is what Nike did. And you're like, we're not Nike, you know, like it's so much cash, it can't even begin to comprehend. So it's kind of like, it's also remembering your own context, isn't it?
Yeah. And Joe, it's also like, you've got to remember where you're measuring this messaging. If you're going, well, right now we're just putting it out on socials, there's no guarantee that every one of your followers is going to see that by any means. Like, the algorithm is putting your content out to such a small percentage these days. You can't assume that everyone's seen it and they've not responded to it. Like, it's a case of, no, they probably just haven't even had any opportunity to engage with it or be aware that that's what you're doing. So you've really got to give it a good try and put it out in a lot of channels before you start to go time to tweak.
And I think it comes back to data, doesn't it? Because when you were at the beginning, you were saying, like, what do you want to do and how are you going to measure whether or not you've done it? And one of the only metrics you can really, truly measure is sales. And a lot of the things you're trying to drive aren't sales. And it's really difficult to try and get a sense as to whether or not what you're doing is achieving what you need it to when it's a bigger objective.
I think there is the other one, which again can be uncomfortable sometimes. It's like, you know, this is purely online, so it's slightly different. But you know, like, is your web traffic going up? Because if it's not going up, you know, forget the sales for a moment. But if your web traffic isn't going up, then you're not really making any progress either. Because that is a kind of like, you know, it's uncomfortably true, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like, there used to be 100 people going to the site. There's still 100 people going to the website. You know, you're not, you know, what you're doing isn't working. That's the truth of it. Or you just need to talk to bigger. But whatever happens, that's where it's kind of like inescapable, I think. Because for the sales side, you can be like, the product's not right, the pricing's not right, you know, all these sort of reasons. But if you're not actually getting people to land up on the website, then that is a fairly good indicator that something's not quite right. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And then just back on Tim's point about, you know, again, where we get bored too quickly, and you see, you know, but also with the algorithm. So we'll be like, oh, we've posted about that, but so few people have done it. So it's like, you know, you've got to stick. Can you try and find the repeat post? There's no bad thing in the repeat post. And And it's the same with the ad creative as well. It's like, oh, we featured that one so many times. You're like, yeah, but that's, you know, again, you see it every time. And every time you pick up your phone, the algorithm's going to show you your own advert. You're like, oh man, I'm so bored of this advert. But no one else is really seeing it, especially with your tiny budgets. You know, chances are you're on a really small budget, so hardly anyone's really seen it. So I think you've got to keep pushing. And one other final, I don't know why I'm off now. One other final thing, I read something the other day, and you know that old thing of like someone's going to see something 7 times to buy, and that was always that, you know, that kind of adage, and that's actually quite a lot anyway. So if you think 7 times, it's quite a lot. But they're sort of saying in this internet age, actually, it's more like, you know, 50 to 200 times. And then it's like, well, if that's the case, which is quite credible because we are all scrolling fast. It's not like in the old days of slowly going through your favorite magazine or the Sunday papers and so on. And so how are you going to get seen 50 to 200 times? You've got to post a whole load, haven't you? You've got to keep at it. You got to stick out there. You can't do one post, you can't send one email, have one thing, and then just be like, oh, no one's buying, I don't understand it. You know, you've got to really like hammer away. And I think I feel like that's a really good way of like really upping the game and be like, okay, let's just say people are going to see this thing 50 times before we've got a chance. And I think if you take that mindset, that's got to make you more patient.
Yeah, but it takes a long time to get 50 touch points anywhere. And it can't just be on social as well.
And that is a bit depressing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? No, that is a bit depressing, but that is the game, I think. You know, it's like, and that's a longer mindset, which I think we kind of probably all need to shift to, because it's so tough anyway out there, isn't it? And people are more considered. We've all got less money. You know, you're probably a little bit less impulsive than you were because you're like, well, I do want to get that, but you know, I've also got to, you know, blah blah blah, boring life admin stuff. You know,
that's a really important point to make, that out of those 50 touch points, you know, instead of the 7, because like you say, the sales funnel used to be the sales funnel. I see it more like a candy floss cone now, where it's just an absolute ball of madness at the top before you get through to any kind of sales thing, because your advert, your post, your email, your piece of print has to land at just the right point in that person's life to need that thing in order to make the transaction. Like, it's got to be on payday, it's got to be when they're actually like, yeah, I'm in the mood for a sweet treat, or actually my beer fridge is empty, I've got to stock up. There are so many variables that you cannot control. The only way to increase your chance of hitting at the right point is volume and consistency.
Yeah, I guess. And then the only thing back into sort of, you know, like brand owner and marketing sort of win of the win, because it's all sounding so challenging, is it's probably never be, you know, it's cheaper than ever to do that. So again, in the old days, you think you'd have to do a print magazine, and it's like, let's just say for, you know, it's $3,000, it's $10,000 for your advert. But now you can do so much to get those touch points without spending money. And then Tim, obviously you were talking about collaborations, and that's where they're obviously great and super cost effective, and you're borrowing each other's audience and eyeballs. You know, you get it right, you're more likely to get other people talking about you, get some press, get more people, you know, talking about you online. So I think that's the nice thing. So it's like, oh my God, it's so daunting, you've got to be seen in so many places. But actually, there's never been so many opportunities to get seen at effectively free or insignificant, inexpensive spend, probably.
100%. And as I say, like, coming back to what I talked about, if you focus in on that one kind of person and that one set of problems that you want to solve, and then you just federate that message out across, it becomes actually a lot easier, because you know who you're talking to and you know what you're saying, instead of having to trial like umpteen hundred messages across different platforms. And
Tim, do you have like a hero? I mean, like a beer brand hero, you're like, they're so good at doing that. Do you know, is there anyone where you're like, you would reference to a client or something? I know it's tricky on the spot, but whether
like... I mean, there's a brewery that I have a lot of respect for. They're not my client. I wish I could say that they were.
They were after this. After this,
yeah. I'm good friends with their designer, so it's all good. It's called Pillars in East London.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They are a lager only brewery. They're the ones who were in the Michelin star restaurant that I was referring to, because it's just such a logical fit. They were founded by a business owner and 2 business partners with no brewing experience, but what they do know is how to run a business and apply the brand and the marketing. And every touch point is just beautiful. Care and consideration across the board. Invested in the tap room at the very beginning to start to build a local community. Yeah, it's a fantastic brand that I think
it's lovely, like orange kegs, haven't they?
That's correct. Yeah.
Instantly cut through all the noise and all the rest of it. You know, that's great.
Yeah. So there we have it. Thus ends my presentation on thinking beyond the drinker. For those of you who are watching in the future, hello, this is Tim from the past talking to you. You can find out more about me at the brandweaver.co.uk. You can check out my podcast where I bring the leading industry experts in the beer and brewing world to help solve the problems of independent breweries, and that's Branding for Breweries. And the gorgeous, talented Mr. Ben Walton is in a past episode, so you can certainly hear him waxing lyrical. You can sign up for my newsletter if you go to thebrandweaver.co.uk/brewery/newsletters, or find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'll also be in other places, I just can't remember where they are right now. Thank you, and good night.
Great. Well, that's probably covered the 50 to 200 places we'll come across.
and that's just me. Like I create a lot of content and I still work. So if I can do it, anyone can do it.
That's great. All right, Joe, have you got any other final things as we're wrapping up?
No, that was really helpful. I mean, I was going to say something really awful. I don't drink beer, so for me, this whole like sector of the market is fascinating. So yeah, it's been really interesting. But lots of nuggets that I've written down some things to regurgitate back to my marketing guy to make sure I feel really clear on the audience. But I think we need to all hold hands around the fact that we're going after that audience and not lose faith.
Yeah. Stay the course.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Tim, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. It's great.
No problem at all, Ben. I've had a wonderful time. It's been a great morning. Thank you.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks so much. Cheers now.
See you later, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.